Hello! We're going to do another video now. We've sort of just done one on overtaking, which will hopefully explain how we overtake. And we're talking about observations during that and why we do them and things like that. And so what we've decided to do is we're going to ride down into Falmouth, and I'm going to follow Toby, good or bad. And when you see these videos that are done by the police and people like that, you know, they're very quite formal, and while they're explaining what they're doing, you know, or they're saying what they're doing, it doesn't really explain the reasons why. So if I'm following Toby, I can see what he's going to be doing and explain that in a less formal fashion if you want. So we're coming on this is the Newquay Road, and we're coming up to a roundabout called Chiverton Cross, which if you live down in Cornwall is infamous. It's the worst roundabout in the world, I think. And now you're all going to put in loads of roundabouts where it's even worse than us. But what we're doing, we're approaching this roundabout, and we're heading towards Truro. So it splits into three lanes here, and we're looking for vehicles that are coming towards us because they're a hazard. Okay, and you can see the vehicles come really quickly, and we're heading basically straight across. Looking in our mirrors, we're looking over our shoulders, and you can see Toby there. He's looking behind himself as he comes off the roundabout. And we've got two lanes into one here. You'll see that he does two over the shoulder checks. When you're going from two lanes into one, if you're riding in an advanced fashion, you're going to put yourself into the position that Toby is now, which is the right hand lane of the two we've just come out of. So you need to make sure that anybody behind you understands what you're doing, but you understand what they're doing more importantly. So by checking in your rear view mirrors and then doing an over the shoulder, one to the right and one to the left, okay, you can see that nobody is going to come racing up inside you, and that's quite important. I see many people riding and they always do the right hand, well, they don't always, a lot of people do the right hand over the shoulder, but very, very few people do the left hand over the shoulder. And that's where people are going to go, oh, there's a gap there, I can get past that motorcycle. So we're going to turn right now. Toby's indicating, he's already checked his mirrors. He's now doing an over the shoulder to make sure there's no one next to him. He's braking. He's timing his ride, so just as this car goes past, he can turn off. Another over the shoulder to make sure no one's trying to beat you. And then we're into the junction. And instantly we're on the left hand side of the road, because the road goes round to the right. We can see way ahead of us now, there's two cars coming after these two cars that have passed us. So we can move out a little bit, but there are no lines on this road, they've just re-tarmacked it. We're staying out wide. There's a junction to the right. Okay, we've gone past that with no problems. There's a bend to the left, so we're as far out as we can be without going into the other side. Checking down that little junction there on the right hand side, and we're moving over to the left so we can get the best view up this road. Now it's very hard to see, but Toby's head is moving quite a lot. How often do you see people riding, concentrating, fixated in many cases on just what's in front of them? And it's important to have an overall understanding of what your environment is you're riding through, and that can be done in different ways. We spoke about this IPSCA thing, and I don't want to harp on about it because that's how I ride, using this information, speed, gear, information, position, speed, gear and acceleration system. But it works, it really does work, and any of the advanced motorcycle groups, ROSPA or IAM in the UK, use this system. So we're coming to a right hand. Toby's checking his mirrors. He's looking to the right because that's where we're going. Nice slow approach to the car in front. There's no need to race up to him because he was stopped. Head moving all the time. Looking left and right. This junction is called Dangerous Crossing, and it's called that for a reason. There's lots of accidents here. And bizarrely enough, there's a lot of motorbike accidents because people try to nip out in front of cars at the last minute. It's always very complicated junction, and it shouldn't be. It's a staggered crossroads. So if we have to wait, we have to wait. It's not a problem. And we're out. Over the shoulder again, check. Turn into the junction. Instantly in position. Checking our mirrors. Checking the road to the left hand side. And there's a truck coming round, so we're right over on the left. As we're changing position, Toby did an over the shoulder. I'm riding a little closer than we normally would. I'm in the 1 second thing here just to highlight this problem. Sorry, the fact that he is moving. If I'm too far back, you might not see it on the video. But we're checking all these junctions, these little farm tracks and things that come out, because that's where cars come flying out. And if they're local to the area, they don't necessarily expect a motorcycle to be riding along it. So as cars coming out from the left hand side, we've adjusted ourselves to the centre of the road, which puts us as far away from the danger, if you want, as we can be. And as we went past that speed sign there was another over the shoulder as we accelerate away. We're looking way ahead now. There's a red car in front of us. It must be about 400 metres away from us now. Just seeing as it goes round the bend to the left in front. We're in a position in the centre of the road, because on these types of road this is the best place to be. We're straight lining all the bends, but not crossing the white line. We don't necessarily need to. It's only going to gain you half a metre, and that's not really required. But we're looking down all the junctions. We're checking our mirrors constantly. When we're changing position on within the lane, Toby's carrying out an over the shoulder. Van coming out from the right hand side, stopped about 1.5 metres back. He's waiting for us to go. We've adjusted our speed accordingly there. I mean, it's a 60-mile-an-hour road. We're doing 50 at the moment, and it's quite tight. Okay, but still in the centre safety position. We're using our safety bubble to its maximum effect. We're dropping the gears down as we come around these bends, because they're always busy. Over the shoulder as we change position in the lane. Around the left hand bend, nice and tight. Looking ahead, straight line the bend, because we can see right down. Checking our mirrors. Now, people talk about checking their mirrors. There's a lot to be said for looking in your rearview mirrors to see what's going on. Speed change, over the shoulder as you approach it, down to the actual speed limit. You're doing that by the time you get to the speed sign. And that highlights the reason why you should be over on the left hand side on a right hand bend. That truck coming around, it's quite a narrow road, but that truck filled the lane, was perhaps just over a little bit over our side of the white line. We're turning to the right now. Mass confusion because the road to the left is closed. Clearly says. Okay, now this is why we have to do lots of observations, because these people are clearly lost, don't know where they should be going. The white car, the people are reading a map. Okay, so rather than get aggressive and rush in and do what a lot of people do, we just took an extra 10 seconds there, let them sort themselves out, and they waved us on, which is the sensible thing to do. Okay, so we're taking it nice and steady. It's a 30-mile-an-hour road, lots of bends, and this is busy for cyclists. You can tell by the sign on the road. Looking into where the cycles always typically come from, and there's a little gate on the left, so we check that out. Okay, vulnerable road users, let's talk about them, because we've got two of them in front of us. Vulnerable road users are anybody else on the road, like bicycles, horses, pedestrians, you know, wheelchair users, mobility scooters. And it's important you give them plenty of space. In the UK it's a law that says you have to give 1.5 meters as you pass a motorcyclist. It's also a law that you have to slow down when near animals like horses and things like that. And it's also important that when you go past some of these, for example, bicycles and things like that, you always check in your mirror, you know, that you've passed them safely. Imagine if you're going at speed, say 60 miles an hour on a road, and then you pass a cyclist. The wind that your bike gives off as it's pushing through the air could be enough to destabilize a bicycle. And if you look in your mirror or do a shoulder check, it's optional, you might just see, you know, that the wind you've caused has actually knocked them off, in which case you need to go back and make sure they're okay. It's illegal to leave a scene of an accident in the UK. I know some countries are different, you've got 24 hours to report it, but in the UK it's illegal. So this is quite a nice twisty road, and it's not about speed on these things. You know, you can ride fast, but you're on your brakes all the time, you're not doing your bike any favours. It's about maintaining a constant speed. So there's lots of little gates along this road we have to look at. You don't necessarily have to turn your head to look at them, but you need to actually physically check them with your eyes as you're going past. And this is a recently tarmac road, so for those of you who ride in the UK, you'll know exactly what it's like to ride on these loose gravel roads. And I'm going to drop back a bit now because Toby's flicking stones at me. But you'll see, while we're riding there, Toby's looking out across the fields. He's not actually necessarily looking at the view, although I'm sure he is. We're looking to see any roads that might be joining, and to see if there's any traffic coming towards us. When we come to the end of this road, there's going to be a left-hand turn. So once we start seeing the signs to say there'll be a left, then you begin your preparations for it. There's lots of little roads on the left-hand side. Okay, so brake in, we're indicating, we're looking to the right, there's a car coming, so we just stop a little bit and wait. It's not necessary to rush out in front of any of these cars. I'm turning my head a bit more because I'm trying to keep up with Toby. I don't want him to run off and leave me. Okay, as we turn onto the road, instantly the car that went past last was turning right, so we've allowed for that. But the first thing Toby did when he got onto the main road was check his left on the inside like you would at a roundabout to make sure there's nothing come up on the inside of you. We're nice and wide on these bends. We're looking at signposts that say there's a junction to the right. It joins the main road, and this is the junction here. So if we're using the information part of IPSCA, there's loads of information on the road which most people ignore. How many times do you see car drivers riding up to a roundabout, which is only a giveaway, a posh giveaway in the UK, and they have to stop when they get to the roundabout because they haven't planned for getting across. The roundabouts are there for free movement of traffic, or free flowing traffic. If you're observing and doing checks before you even get there, you probably don't have to stop. Then you use less fuel, you don't use your brakes. And the sign we've got coming towards us now on the left hand side just past this junction is a zigzag, and the zigzag starts to the left. And look at that car cut right across, but Toby was in the right position, so it wasn't a big ball ache for him. All he had to do was move in a little bit. I think the van driver gets more frightened than Toby was. And you see he's in a position there to go around the right hand bend. Plenty of space away from the car. We talk about a safety bubble. The safety bubble is important because it's maintaining our safety. So we never ever sacrifice our safety for a better view, so for position. and we're always changing our perceptions of what's going on constantly, you know. And we do that by looking in our mirrors, reading the signposts. We've got another left-hand bend coming up, a zigzag bend as they call them in the UK. Because they don't want to be constantly on the brakes. I mean, how tired must people be when they get to the end of their ride and they've been on the accelerator, on the brakes, another speed limit change, quick over the shoulder, there's nobody behind us, we're always checking the mirrors, and we're going to be turning left at the end of this road, hopefully, if it is where I think it is. But we've also just passed a school sign. Okay, so we have to be careful there's no kids come running out. And this is just a basic junction, but there's lots of information here. There's a signpost in front of us saying it's restricted weight for access, also telling us where different places are, and that's important that we understand what those signs mean. How many times have I taken people out and asked them questions on the highway code, and it's hard to keep up with it, you know. Some people never read it since the day they pass the test. See the car coming up quite a narrow road. Toby's in a good position to be away from him, so he doesn't encroach on his safety bubble. Now I know people want us to ride fast on our videos when we're doing bike reviews, but when we're on roads like this, it is quite a difficult thing to... Yes, we could ride fast, we could ride very fast, and I'm sure that would impress some people. However, it wouldn't be safe. We just don't come down quite a steep hill, and not had to use our brakes. Where we all know people who'll be riding down there with their feet on the brake or their hands on the brake all the time. And we're going to change in road surface there. We went through what's effectively a little stream running across the road, and it's been a very warm few days, so that liquid on the road will make the roads a little bit slippy there, and it was on a bend. So if you'd have been going down there too fast, you may have missed that. Or should I say, you wouldn't have missed it, you'd have got it, definitely, but you'd have probably had a little bit of a slide at some point. So, we're checking our mirrors again. Complicated junction in front of us. Lots of rear views, lots of over the shoulders, pulling straight out. We're coming into the next village, and straight away there'll be an over the shoulder probably. Did it just as I was doing mine, so we missed that. You know, observations are not just you know, road surfaces and signposts and things like that. I had to duck then, because you might see it on the videos. There was an overhanging branch that's dropped down for some reason. If I was a bit taller, it'd have whacked my head. So that's an observation, you know, you've observed that, you've seen it coming, and you've adjusted how you're riding accordingly. So we're coming into a village, lots of little roads on and off. Just checking them all out, making sure there's nobody going to come flying out of us. We've got an uphill bend round to the left. Always busy this little bit of the road. Normally there's traffic parked up here, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but today there isn't. We've gone right through. But information we've picked up there's a bus stop we've just gone over. If the bus had been stopped there, that would have been a huge vehicle to get round on a quite a narrow road. So we'd have had to plan our way past the bus. Roads to the left and roads to the right. It's almost like a song, that: clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Okay, over the shoulder, we accelerate up, and we're accelerating up to our speed limit, which is 60 miles an hour on this road. We're in a nice easy gear that's not going to cause us to use our brakes very much. We roll off the throttle, engine braking takes in straight away, and we'll just start slowing down. Signs coming up with the zigzag, and the road narrows. Junction to the left there, just checked. And there's a T-junction, there's a road joining from the right, and there's possibly queuing on the bends on a bus stop. So there's a lot going on this little road here, but we've still gone through at a reasonable speed because we've planned it. Queue's likely towards us, right hand bend, we're looking as far around the bend as possible, and there's a roundabout coming up. Which way is Toby going to go? Okay, we're going straight over the roundabout. Toby's going to get out and I can't. Now I can. There's Mr. John Penlerick from Cornwall Blood Bikes in a little van there, giving us a wave. Okay, this road we're going on now has had 3 motorcycle deaths on it in the last 5 years due to speed on bends, and it's really sad that those have happened, because to be honest, this road is a fantastic road. You can ride at the speed limit right the way up to the top, and you shouldn't be in that situation where you get into an accident situation. And if we're blatantly, brutally honest with ourselves, the reason people have accidents is on bends is because they've got in the wrong gear, they're going at the wrong speed, possibly in the wrong position, and if something goes wrong, what they tend to do is they grab a handful of the brake, the bike sits up into an upright position, and all it can do, because it's physics, is go straight on, and that's why they have their accidents. And that is a wonderful bit of road up the top there. Nice at less bend, you can go through, and you can go through it at the national speed limit. It's really easy. Over the shoulder there, slowing down for the 30 mile an hour speed limit. Junctions to the left. Toby's in a nice outward position to see around the bend as far as he can, but not encroaching onto the other lane. If you imagine where you would be sat if you were in a car and you were driving on the right hand side as you do in the UK, he's in almost the driver's position, so it's nothing outlandish we're doing. It looks a bit more outlandish because motorcycles move across the lane a bit more. Bus coming out. Never be afraid to stare at drivers when they're in junctions like that, because that little movement of your head, even if they can't see your eyes because of your visor, is quite often enough to trigger the subconscious in their head to say, oh, something happened there, but I don't know what it was. And you can see them do a second look, or they actually fixate on you then, and you know they've seen you. Quite often, if you've got, like we have now, we've got a lot of cars behind us. When people look down a road, you know, they say, for example, turning onto a main road, so they're turning left, they look to their right, as they would in the UK. And the last thing they're thinking about is a motorcycle, because a motorcycle is not a big threat if you're in a car. They're looking at the car that's behind you, and only if you change something about your position or what you're actually doing will that person in the car look at you, if that makes sense. So just a slight movement of your head is quite enough for the brain of that person in the car to sit and go, oh, hang on, something changed then, and that's when they see you. Because after a lot of accidents, you'd always hear people run up to you going, I'm sorry mate, I didn't see you. Well, you did, you just didn't see me, if you see what I mean. So we're pulling away, checking our mirrors as we pull away, checking up the roads, And here we are in deepest darkest Penryn. So we're turning left here. And that's the end of that. I hope it makes a bit of sense to you. Me just rambling on for 20 minutes. So if you like the video, give us a big thumbs up. And subscribe, because we like lots of subscribers. We always like your comments, good or bad. Although, you know, if they're particularly bad, we'll bin you. And we'll see you in the next video. Brilliant.